Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof, and I'm here for another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. I am here today with an executive coach, and I'm going to read her bio in a moment, but Jennifer Durbin Tuffy. I'm really glad to have her today. I hope to have I'm looking forward to having a really super duper conversation with Jennifer, but I want to read her bio as I always do, just so I give her a proper introduction. Okay. Jennifer Durbin Tuffy is a certified executive coach who believes that authentic, wholehearted leadership is the key to discovering professional fulfillment and unlocking the full potential of leaders and their teams. Jennifer partners with executives and high potential leaders who strive to realize their professional aspirations and live out their personal values. As a strategic transformational executive, Jennifer spent 20 years leading organizational and digital transformations by designing and developing high-performance teams. Through her years in leadership, Jennifer discovered true professional fulfillment being in service to others through coaching. So Jennifer, welcome to Winning Proof Unscripted today.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
I'm totally thrilled to have you. So I have so many questions for you, and we'll, hopefully just have an organic discussion. But I want to start with, how did you get into executive coaching? What drew you into the industry?
So I think a lot of the credit actually goes to the first executive coach that I had, and what a transformational experience that was for me. So I had never considered a role like executive coaching until I experienced it myself and saw how life-changing it was for me. And then when I got to the point in my career where I really realized that for 20 years, I had been following someone else's career path and not my own, I took a step back to really take some time to discover what I truly wanted to do, which is when I found myself seeking out this new career in executive coaching. And it was kind of funny because what happened is UC Berkeley during COVID took their executive coach training virtual, right? So everything was via Zoom, which gave me the opportunity to be part of the program at Berkeley without having to fly back and forth to California.
Yes.
So I thought, how wonderful, like, let's give this a try and see how it goes. And I absolutely fell in love with it, because what I realized is that throughout my career, I'd really enjoyed each of the different roles that I had had, some of which were very different than the one before. But actually, it wasn't the work that I was doing that I enjoyed. It was the teams that I was building. It was the organizations that I was standing up. And it was that true fulfillment of seeing those organizations continue to grow over the years, long after I had left. And so I realized that being in that support role for others was where I was going to find true professional fulfillment.
Yeah, that is so true. And sometimes I was just talking to a friend and who's a little bit younger, but starting her career. And she was saying, just about being in a tough place of, I've tried this and this, and finding her place. And so how important is it, as people are starting their career, do they have to try a lot of things sometimes to find their sweet spot?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I'm also that person who had 5 different majors in college before I decided what I really wanted to do, because I literally started with the intent of being a kindergarten teacher and finished with a degree in political science to go into finance. So
those are very diverse majors.
Yes.
Okay, so people do need to just experiment and expand and try. And it doesn't mean just because they try one avenue and maybe it doesn't work, or maybe it doesn't work for them at that time. Maybe it doesn't work for them as a whole, where they want to go, all that is, that's okay. It's okay to give ourselves permission to say, okay, next.
Absolutely. I think it's a very small percentage of the population that knows from childhood what they want to be when they grow up, right? So you always run into those people who always knew that they wanted to be a vet or a pediatrician, but most of us have to find our own way and try different things because, a lot of us find ourselves in a position where we're following in our parents' footsteps or the footsteps of the adults who are around us, because that's the context that we've grown up in. And let's be honest, when we're 18 years old and going off to college, we don't know much about life yet. So to be making a major decision about, what major you're going to commit to and then spend the rest of your career in that one space is, it's ripe for challenges, right? So I always encourage people to explore other opportunities, try on different roles, read new books, talk to people in different roles to really discover what you want to do. And I'll share a quick story about a current client that I have who has been so successful in his career that he's never taken the time to think about what he really wants to do, because he's been motivated just to keep climbing the corporate ladder that he's on, that's rewarding him so much. And so now through our coaching, we're taking the time to really uncover what he truly wants to do.
That is so exciting when people find that. And I have read stories about attorneys who just hated the law field after law school, after passing the bar, and they're leading dog sled, expeditions in Alaska or whatever, and loving life. And so it's that's why I say it's always good to just give yourself permission to experiment. I happen to be one of the little small percent. I wanted to be a writer as a kid. I was a natural writer. My heart leapt when the teacher said book report or research project. Even in grade school, I would just, oh boy, when everybody else was like, oh. So I'm one of the very small percent. But even if you know what you want to do, it's still, you go through and I'll call it the evolution of a career, and you go through an evolution of being a solopreneur to, your business morphs into looking different through the years. And I have found that definitely.
Nope, that's very true. And I was actually just reflecting over the past couple of months about a point in my career when I was finishing business school and having lunch with my boss and mentor, who was the VP of finance, wonderful man, had done amazing things for my career. And he said to me, okay, you're getting ready to finish business school. What do you want to do next? What do you want to do with your career? And I found myself saying, without even thinking about it, I want to work with people. And he, in true VP of finance form, looked at me and said, Jennifer, that is not a job. and so at that point, right, I mean, if we look back on that, I was truly speaking what I'm meant to do and what I am doing now, but I was in an environment where that wasn't feasible, right? So I had to find a different path to take, because I was told, best of intentions, and he's very happy for where I am now, but I was in an environment where that wasn't a real thing, and there wasn't the space to create it for myself just yet.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, sometimes we're extensions of our parents, but I come from the generation where I would just homemaker, just get married and, find someone to marry, be a homemaker. I mean, I loved it. I did that. But then I was, at 43 years old, when I was now alone for the first time in my life, I didn't have some big old career to fall back on. So I was finding out who I was and what I was made of at 43 years old. And it's been a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride ever since, because I I just think that it's so much better when you find that out in your 20s. But I was, married and had kids at 24 and 27. So yeah, that it's twists and turns of life are amazing. But you say you coach for courage, self-awareness, executive presence, influential leadership effectiveness, and interpersonal relationships. So how do you mend or blend all that into a coaching client experience?
Well, each client's needs are different, right? So that wonderful list that you just read off really covers the whole spectrum of clients that I work with. So there are some where we purely focus on courage, right? Because that's their biggest challenge, whether it be, walking with the challenges of imposter syndrome, or, not having just the plain courage to speak up for themselves or what they want. Whereas I have other clients who have, ascended to a level in their career where very different things are being expected of them. So their executive presence has now become much more important than their technical abilities.
Yeah.
And so it's helping them make that transition, which is a fascinating one, because there's so many people that have, me included, have a hard time letting go of old roles. So being able to step out of that technical role and step into a leadership role can be a very challenging one. And it's fascinating because you can have very successful people who have such a deep connection to the work that they've done that has gotten them to this point in their career, that we honestly have to work through mourning the loss of their old role so that they can truly step into this new role. And that's one of the things that I think is the most magical about executive coaching, is it allows for changes like that. Like, change is very hard for us as people, and most organizations don't have the ability to create space for that, right? Because that's a lot of conversations about how someone is feeling about a meeting or an interaction they're having with a staff member. And that's just not a normal topic of conversation in the boardroom. And so I love being able to help people through challenges like that. And I love to say that my job is to meet you where you are and help you along the path that you've designed for yourself. So whether that be, helping improve courage, self-awareness, perspective, executive presence, whatever your need is, we can help shore that up through coaching conversations.
That is so exciting, because that really is life-changing blood to somebody who is either struggling in their career, needs one of these aspects, that we mentioned, and that's really changes the trajectory of people's lives. So that has to be really fulfilling for you to be a conduit for that.
It really is. And one of the things that's most exciting is when I hear from people a year later about how things have progressed. Because if we work together for a year and for whatever reason part ways, they're still continuing to grow long after our conversations end. So to get those follow-up messages that, Jennifer, I've continued to implement this practice that we talked about, and these are the impacts that it's had on me and my career. I'll tell you another funny story. One of my favorites was, there was a CTO who I was working with, who you can imagine very analytical in his thinking and approach to work and life. And we started one of our coaching calls, and he said, before we get started, my wife made me promise that I would thank you for all of the work that we have been doing together, which just tickled me, because the work that we had been doing to improve his work environment was also having an impact on him personally that his wife could see. So I thought that that was just wonderful.
Well, I think that's so true too, because when one area of our life improves, it tends to have a ripple effect to the other areas. If somebody is struggling with, say, a weight problem or losing weight or something, and they improve their career or they improve their mental or emotional state, that permeates through, then they tend to want to get healthier in their weight. They tend to want to just improve on their job or in their career. So I do think it does have a definite rippling effect, which is super exciting, because when one area improves, most of the time, they all improve.
Yes, because we are whole people. Like we don't have separate work lives and personal lives.
Yes.
It's all one life.
Exactly. So do you have people coming to you, clients, that say, I have been practicing law for 10 years. I am sick of it. I hate the law industry. Can you help me? I mean, you're not specifically a career transition coach, but do you help a client like that? And what are some of the steps that you would, I know that's a loaded question and it involves way more time than we have, but what are some initial steps you would take them through if they're coming to you saying they realize they hate their career, they want another career that's completely unrelated?
Mm-hmm. So I get that question a lot. There are a lot of individuals who will reach out to me for coaching to help them through a transition. And then there are individuals within companies where that ends up being a big topic of conversation. Yeah. And it's interesting because I say it's probably a 50-50 split of people who truly need or want to make that transition. And 50% of the people who there's really something else going on. There's an underlying challenge. So for example, I had a gentleman who was an EVP of sales come to me and say, I've decided I want to go be a barbecue pit master. And I said, well, okay, let's talk about that. and it wasn't that he needed to make a drastic career change. It was that he needed to recognize how toxic the environment he was currently in was. And so there's so many times where we're in such this swirl of toxicity at work that we start to hate what we're doing or the company that we're working for because we've become so miserable at work. Mm-hmm. And when you're able to find a way to address the toxicity or move yourself into a different role or to a different organization, you may find that you actually do love the work. It's just some of the people or the company culture that was not a good fit for you. Yes. But to answer your classic question about the people who want to make drastic career changes, I encourage them to slow down and take their time and really think through what they want to do. Because you do have people who have put a lot of thought into it and have decided, I've been a lawyer for 20 years. Now I want to go be a preschool teacher, right? And sometimes that is very true. And, the preschool teacher is what they were meant to be their entire career. And that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But it takes time and a lot of introspection to really discover what we want to do. And so one of the first things that I do in slowing down the conversation is we, back up to early in your career when you were still in college to talk through what you thought you would do. What were the things that you loved to, imagine when you were in college? What careers were you exploring? Because that really opens us up to a more pure view of who we are at our core, right? Because as soon as you start your career and you're getting a steady paycheck or you're getting promotions or awards, you can get very caught up in that, typical traditional corporate environment where you believe you need to continue to climb that corporate ladder and you don't have the space to think about what's truly best for you. So slowing down the conversation and backing up and discovering what's most meaningful for them is where the conversation always starts. And then it's fascinating to see where it goes, because there's some people who do truly make drastic career changes and their entire world changes, right? I mean, they're happy for the first time. And then, like I said, there are others who we do that journey of self-discovery and introspection, and really it's the environment they're in or team members that they're working with, and they need to make a change, to find a role that's a better fit for them.
Yes, and people say, that famous group of people that lives on an island somewhere
on high
in the world. Yes. They say people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. So that you're saying that is very, not just bosses, coworkers, maybe just the dynamics of a team. And sometimes they get a renewed sense of their vision staying in that industry because maybe it's just gotten toxic for them in that particular environment. Somebody else might thrive in that environment, and so sometimes just a tweak of 15 degrees to the left or to the right, and all of a sudden you're aligned again.
Yes, well, and sometimes it's alignment in your personal life that you need.
Ooh.
Right. So I had one client who discovered that what was really going on is a lack of fulfillment personally. And so they spent time finding an organization that they could become a part of and volunteer with. And so finding that personal fulfillment outside of work completely changed their experience at work. And so nothing about their actual role changed, but they made significant changes personally that enhanced their work experience.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes. And yeah, a lot of times that it's life alignment. We often reference work-life balance, but a lot of people, I know you probably shudder at that, but it's work-life. I've heard it work-life harmony, but work-life alignment is such a powerful statement, and I think people are just want that so bad, and they don't know how to get it, and it's frustrating, and it's a lot of people will never make that shift, and that's the scary part. So and this is a weird question, but in what condition do people usually come to you if they are experiencing a crisis of work-life alignment? Are they just frazzled? Are they coming to you just hoping that you're their last hope?
Well, and first of all, I love your use of the word alignment, because I think that that's so much more important to talk about than this idea of work-life balance, because just the statement work-life balance presupposes that work and life are opposing forces. And they are not opposing forces in our life. They're pieces of what make up our whole life. And so that whole alignment of you as a whole person is so critical. So to answer your question, the people who come to me, it's fascinating because sometimes it's the leader, sometimes it's the CEO or the board who says, please go get coaching here, talk to Jennifer. And then there are other people who just feel so frazzled that they're reaching out for coaching, really to figure out which end is up. They've gotten to that point in their career where they just don't know what to do next, which is very common, because when we feel torn in 2 or 3 or 10 different directions, we can't focus. Like, our thinking is so clouded that we can't even think straight. So it's that feeling of desperation that often leads people to reach out for help, which is wonderful, because one of the most empowering things we can do for ourselves is ask for help.
Yes.
seek guidance and help from the people who are around us and love us and want to support us through whatever is going on. But I also would encourage people to start thinking about finding help, whether that be coaching or a different kind of help, when those feelings start creeping up, like when it's just boiling under the surface before things kind of boil over. But it's fascinating because I hear some of the same things from people, no matter what phase of franticness they're in their career, and it's just this feeling of disconnection and craziness, and the feeling that they don't have enough time, and they can't ever get in everything done. So it's those frantic words that are a telltale sign that there's a lack of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to start using that word more often as well. So, what are the top 3 benefits from somebody coming to you for executive coaching? What are the top 3 benefits they're going to, and I'll say, walk away with?
So what I hear most often from my clients is, number one is that it creates a safe space for them to explore all of these questions. So many of us feel like we're alone, feel like these thoughts of whether it's imposter syndrome or I'm never going to achieve my goals or I'm not doing good enough. We feel like we're the only ones who think that. And that's so not true. So one of the top benefits is just having a space to talk about those things, right? Because once we speak them and once we shed light on the challenges that we're having, we can fix them, right? I mean, it's when we try to sweep them under the rug and hide them in the corner that they start to fester and really impact us. So I would say that is absolutely number one. Number two, that I see in my clients, and many of them see it for themselves too, but I see an incredible improvement in self-awareness and expanded perspective. And that comes from the introspective journey of coaching, of discovering who you truly are as a leader and how you show up at work. And is that how you want to show up, or is that something that you want to adjust? Really understanding how other people experience you is such an empowering thing. And then the third, I would say, is clarity. So clarity on the path forward. Am I in the right role? Do I have the right team? Am I in the right industry? Like, is this the job I want? Am I enjoying it or not? So kind of the safe space would be number one. Number two would be expanded self-awareness and perspective. And 3 would be clarity.
Okay, wonderful. Great, great, great. Now you are a speaker as well, a leadership speaker. So what topics do you speak on?
Well, most of the people who call me want me to talk about work-life balance and how we find it. So we have to start the conversation with, I'm going to encourage you to never say work-life balance again.
Yes.
But I do talk a lot about whole life alignment, right? Because I do truly believe that when we can step into our authentic leadership and really tap into who we are authentically, that's when anything is possible. And so a lot of my talks are centered around, how do you discover your true self? How do you cut through the noise and really give yourself the time and the space to discover who you are, who you want to be, and how you want to lead? And so most of my speaking topics surround that. I've actually got one that's coming up in just a few weeks that's for people who are earlier in their career, who are trying to define their career path, right? So the hope there is we catch people just a few years out of college before they end up on a career path that they don't want to be on, right? So exploring the possibility, and again, tapping into your individual strengths, because each of us have such wonderful, unique strengths that we bring to the world. And I think that one of the reasons that I'm here is to help people tap into what that is and help them share their unique strengths with the world.
Yeah, and that's so true, because a lot of people stop creating their own businesses, or they don't go that direction because they think, oh, a million people are doing this, and this, the people know so much more than I do, and they have so much more experience. But you know what? They might, yeah, but they're not you. And you bring a special uniqueness and a special, your gifts, the combination of your talents, your gifts into maybe a same industry, but you're bringing you. So a lot of times that stops people because they look at everybody else when they need to look at themselves and look at their value and their worth and what they bring to the marketplace.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I could talk for a whole long time with you because you're very fascinating, and I have so many more questions. But for today, we might do this again, just to get some deeper into
part two.
Yeah, part two. That's right, everybody. Part two is coming. But how can people connect with you if they have watched you, watch our interview today, watched our conversation, and they thought, oh my gosh, I need her. I need executive coaching. I need transformational something in my life. How can they connect with you?
So the easiest way to reach me is hello@scoutinger.com. And that's SCOUTENGER.com. That email will get directly to me. But I would point you to my YouTube page. So on my YouTube channel, I've got a number of videos that are different tips and tricks and leadership ideas to start kind of getting those wheels turning and getting you thinking about things that you hadn't thought of from a leadership perspective before.
Oh, wonderful. And I will put all the links that Jennifer just mentioned in the show notes, so you'll all have them to click on. So Jennifer, I'm so thankful you were here today. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom and knowledge with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. It's truly my pleasure.
Yeah, it is fun. It has been fun. So thank you so much. And I just want to tell people, if you want to connect with me, I'm on winningproof.com. That's my website, winningproof@gmail.com. If Gmail ever goes down, we're all in a whole mess of trouble. So winningproof@gmail.com is my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. Oh, I don't know, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you happen to be hanging out.
All of the places.
Yeah, all over the place. Yeah, all over the places of platforms I understand. Yes. So thank you so much for watching another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel because I really need it. And you'll be notified of any new episodes that I do. So thank you very much. And until next time, thank you for watching another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted.